In the unlikely event that you run into John McCain at a cocktail party anytime soon, here's a tip. Don't bring up Sarah Palin. I mean, you can if you go in for that sort of thing, but it's already awkward and they're still running mates.
We're not going to agree on every issue, but that's the fun of our relationship. And I can't tell you the excitement that she has generated and the role model she is. I couldn't be happier.
The phrase "couldn't be happier" is actually hard to pronounce through clenched teeth. But at least the senator himself is trying. Who's not even bothering to try? A number of increasingly chatty chatterboxes from inside McCain's own campaign. First, an anonymous top Republican told Politico.com that Palin was getting antsy, that she was losing confidence in the McCain team, that she'd, quote, gone rogue, and she'd like to go more rogue. Then another unnamed McCain advisor told CNN that Palin was, quote, a diva, which is where most folks stopped listening. But the rest of the quote was worse. The same knife wielder went on to say that Palin, quote, takes no advice from anyone. She does not have any relationships of trust with any of us, her family, or anyone else. Frankly, that's scarier than rogue and diva put together. No trusting relationships? Dissing her relationship with her family, with her husband and her 5 kids? Wow. Then today, believe it or not, it actually got worse when Mike Allen at Politico.com reported that a McCain advisor called Palin a, quote, whack job. So you can add whack job to an impressive and growing diss list, not from the East Coast media elite, but from McCain's own people. Robert Draper added insult to the injury today when he reported for GQ magazine's End of the Election blog that, quote, I've heard from one well-placed source that McCain has snubbed her on one long bus ride aboard the Straight Talk Express, to the embarrassment of those sitting nearby. He also says that McCain, quote, higher-ups described Sarah Palin as knowing nothing about national and international issues. Still, though, snubbing her on the bus, isn't that kind of petty, horrible 8th grade lunchroom drama for a presidential ticket? Can you imagine 4 years of that kind of drama while they're also in charge of the military, submitting budgets, picking Supreme Court justices? If they did win, and I realize that's against the odds, but if they did win, how could McCain and Palin govern together? Have other presidents and vice presidents ever called each other whack job? Here to try and talk me down is NBC News presidential historian Michael Beschloss. Mr. Beschloss, thank you for being here.
Hi, Rachel. It sounded as if you were reading from a deposition in a divorce case.
Well, this is your chance to talk me down here. I mean, please tell me there's tons of precedent for presidential and vice presidential candidates going after each other like this. Please.
Okay, I'll do my best. I'm not sure how well I'm going to do.
Okay.
Once a president and a vice president are in office, there's almost always tension. The president always wants absolute loyalty. Lyndon Johnson was the best example of this. He said he wanted a vice president. I've got to clean this up for your show, Rachel. He said I want a vice president who's so loyal he'll kiss my behind in Macy's window and say it smells like a rose. Johnson had a pretty extreme view of loyalty. So you've got a president who wants loyalty, and all these vice presidents since 1932, they have all wanted to run for president. So once they're in office, there are these tensions, usually behind the scenes. The difference here is you usually don't see this as early as a presidential campaign when the two sides of the ticket are usually trying to put their best feet forward.
If McCain and Palin do win, does history tell us anything about how a mutual unappreciation society like this would affect their ability to govern together?
It would be a problem if she, for instance, as vice president, goes into the vice presidency immediately wanting to run for president. That's happened before. And when that happens, what goes on is a vice president begins leaking that he or she disagrees with what the president does, tries to make the vice president look better, makes the president annoyed. Not a very good way to run a country, particularly in a time of crisis.
Can you tell us who, particularly in history, would have been the evidence for that, so we can go look them up and think about all the bad things they did as president and vice president?
Richard Nixon and Spiro Agnew. Nixon put Agnew on the ticket feeling that he was not very well qualified. Agnew came in having been plucked out of obscurity not very grateful to Nixon, and in fact thinking that he should be the next president. Nixon spent a lot of that presidency trying to undermine Agnew to make sure that Agnew never came close to the presidency, either through election or succession, and they didn't work together, and it was a bit of a mess.
Getting back to the fact that this friction has emerged before they are elected, it's emerged during the campaign, is there precedent? Have we ever seen before something like what we're seeing now on the Republican side, which is rallies that are larger for the vice presidential nominee? There appears to be some more enthusiasm, particularly among the base, for Sarah Palin than there is for John McCain. Have we seen anything similar to this in history?
We really have not in modern times, and that's what makes this so unusual, because John McCain needs her. You know, she has brought enthusiasm into the reception of this ticket, but at the same time, obviously, if those reports that you're talking about are true, he's getting increasingly annoyed by her. And, you know, the other thing, Rachel, is these McCain aides who are saying that she's a diva and a whack job, who do they think put Sarah Palin on the Republican ticket? They're basically casting doubt on the judgment of their own presidential candidate, probably the most important decision he can make, deciding who's going to be first in the line of succession.
I'm so glad that you said that so I didn't have to. It's exactly what I've been thinking about this.
I tried to talk you down. I did my best, I promise.
Not at all. Michael Beschloss, NBC News presidential historian. It's always great to have you on the show. Thank you so much.
Same here. Thank you, Rachel.